You ever have a moment where you look at someone on your team and you think, how can they be that stupid? And here's the gut punch. They're not stupid. And chances are you made them stupid. Not as an insult, but as biology. Because every time you tighten your jaw, you slam your fist on the desk, you raise your voice, you let your intensity bleed through, you drop that sarcasm, you're triggering their fight or flight response. And you're flooding their brain with cortisol. Their neocortex, the thinking part of their brain, shuts off. And all of a sudden, this person who can sell, negotiate, problem solve, and deliver all day long, they can't even think. They become what Dr. Henry Cloud calls a lizard, because only their lizard brain is working. And here, you end up getting frustrated at them for the very problem that you caused by your own behavior. Welcome to what I call the neurochemistry of intimidation. This is a leadership trap that gets so many leaders because you end up getting frustrated at creating the very thing that you say that you hate. I'm Chris Hunsaker, and this is the Dealership War Room. Leadership Fire, 7 minutes, built daily, fueled intentionally, and delivered relentlessly. So let's go. In my book, Unstoppable Culture, I describe a pattern that destroys performance faster than bad processes, bad training, or even bad people. It's the brain chemistry collapse of intimidation. And this happens whenever you get emotionally intense, not even yelling, just tense. And you know this moment, right? Your eyebrows tighten, your voice sharpens, your posture becomes more aggressive, your breath gets a little more shallow, and everyone around you in that moment when you're frustrated, you're angry, and you're not even necessarily raising your voice, but everything around you is communicating this. What happens is you just give everybody in the organization, everyone around you, a spike of cortisol. Not metaphorically, a literal chemical dump into your bloodstream. And when that happens, you start to see your brain, the best part of your brain, shuts down. Creativity shuts down. Problem solving shuts down. Empathy shuts down. Memory shuts down. Almost every key factor that you need, everything that you need for performance, all shut down because of that cortisol spike that you introduced. And not just you, me, everybody have done it. And not only have I done this at work, I've done this at home with my kids. And my guess is you may have too. So now that we've lost our judgment, our reasoning, our creativity, and everything else, what is it that stays online? The brainstem, what we call the lizard brain. Because here's the deal. Angry boss is never as effective as he thinks he is. Just like drunk guy is never as funny as he thinks he is. The drunk guy is having an entirely different experience of the world around him because his neocortex is shut down from the alcohol. And anger floods your brain and shuts things down in exactly the same way. So not only are you making your people a lizard, you're also making yourself a lizard. When you're angry, you feel crystal clear, but crystal clear and clarity isn't leadership if the people that you're leading can't even think because of the ways you're showing up and the way you're expressing yourself. You fall into the trap that I call the illusion of effectiveness. Think about a time when this has happened. You feel better after venting, right? You made your point. You set the expectation. But all you really did was paralyze the very brain of the person that you need to perform. That's why I call it the illusion of effectiveness, because all you're doing is discharging all of your stress onto them. You're just transferring your stress. You're not being effective. You're not training. You're not improving. You're not getting production better. You're just relieving your stress by dumping it on your team. And when you dump your stress on your team, you literally inhibit their ability to perform and get stuff done. That's why I call it the illusion of effectiveness, because since you feel better, you think you've done a great job. You haven't raised the standard, you haven't set expectations, and you definitely haven't communicated what needs to get done. This is why your team avoids you, hides mistakes, says yes, but doesn't follow through. Sometimes even works better when you're not around. Haven't you ever had a boss where the day they didn't come in, everybody did better? Why? Because the environment was easier. There was less cortisol and more ability to focus and make things happen and get stuff done. Because when you shut people down, that's the kind of behavior that you drive. That's why you can look at your team, wonder, why are they struggling to remember the instructions I've gone over 100 times? Why are they not getting better? Because the minute you intimidate, you shut down their operating system. One of the most powerful stories in the book is of Peter Battle, who was a fixed operations director. And he had this habit of every time he walked out in the shop, he would spike the cortisol of his entire tech team. Not because he yelled, not because he corrected, but because his emotional intensity signaled danger to everyone in the shop because they knew somebody was going to get in trouble. He was literally creating the chemical destruction that was destroying productivity in an entire team. But he was the chemical cause. And that's the neurochemistry of intimidation. And here's the fact that you need to face. Your intensity may be coming from passion, but your team experiences it as intimidation. What your job as a leader is to be relentless in standards, execution, and focus without being intense in anger, frustration, and what we often call passion, which is really just frustration. We're experiencing a stress and just transferring it to our team to feel better in the name of coaching or making things better, setting the standard. And intimidation never produces excellence. It produces fear, and fear produces lizards. And lizards don't problem solve. Lizards don't learn. Lizards don't sell. Lizards don't innovate. Lizards don't have empathy, and lizards don't execute. Lizards survive, and that's it. And here's the hard truth. You will never build a high-performance team by triggering biological survival mode. It just can't happen. So now, let me give you some hope. Here's how to break the pattern. I call this the interruption loop, and it's a 3-step pattern, a 3-step process to absolutely stop that cortisol dump before it ever even happens. Step 1, notice the spike, the heat in your neck, that pressure behind your forehead, that overwhelming desire to say, "Are you kidding me right now?" That's the beginning of the cortisol chain reaction, and naming it starts to interrupt it. That's step 1. Step 2, break the chemistry. All you're going to do is stop, pause, breathe in slow, and exhale a little more slowly. That one shift moves you from that fight or flight kind of system back into that parasympathetic calm where you're centered, focused, and rational. I got to tell you, 10 seconds can save you 10 relationships. Now, step 3, change your posture. Soften your eyes, unclench your jaw, lower your shoulders. Basically, your posture needs to communicate, we're safe. Your intensity creates lizards. Your relentless regulation creates leaders. And that is the whole game right there. Your ability to day by day consistently, especially under pressure when it matters most, to create leaders and not lizards is the difference between being average and being elite. Our execution bridge today is simple, and you will have many opportunities to use this. When you feel the intensity hit at any given time during the day, and not every time, just pick once, one time during today. Pick once, don't aim for perfection, aim for progress. And as soon as it does, pause, breathe, change your posture, reset. That's all I'm going to ask you to do is one time today, interrupt that loop, right? We want to interrupt that biological chemical dump loop so that you are constantly in your posture with your breath, having interrupted it, with your focus, you're able to communicate to your team, we're safe, and then they can execute. Because the moment you learn how to break that chemical change, that's the moment that you stop creating lizards and start creating leaders. And you start becoming that kind of leader whose presence makes everybody else smarter and not scared. If today's session really hit home today and you know someone who could really use this, please forward the podcast on to them. Let them know, share it with them. And for you, if you want to become a ninja, if you're looking at that and saying, hey, wait a minute, if I can turn my intensity into relentlessness, and if I could change from creating lizards to creating leaders, and you see that as a pathway for you to execute more, to earn more, and to build the business that you want to build, then text the word lizard to the number that you see on the screen. And we're going to give you access to our AI execution assistant that will help guide you through a series of questions to absolutely dial in how you specifically in your store and with your people, with your style and with your personality, can absolutely master this interruption loop, the emotional self-regulation to turn intensity into relentlessness and absolutely blow away execution in your store. With that, go out today, create some leadership fire. Make sure you practice that interruption loop, and I'll see you tomorrow in the Dealership War Room.